What's up, guys? So in this video there's going to be a very obvious continuity or lack of continuity from the last video, because the last video was all about paint and there's about a 5-month gap in between painting the exterior and the interior on this thing, partially from some malfunctions with the air compressor and scheduling with the farm this year. So anyways, this video is going to be about getting it running and doing a bunch of fab work on some stuff here and there, like the steering column, steering shaft, intercooler piping, the intake. I think I did some stuff with the seats in this video. Yeah, so for most of the video, it's just going to be in plain primer again until the end, when I go back over top of some stuff and touch on stuff that changed from when I originally filmed. What's up, everybody? In this video, as you can see, we get this thing running. Working on the harness, and all of this stuff here is interior harness. You can see where it passes through the firewall right here and hooks up to the underhood fuse panel. I've already started eliminating some stuff, but mostly all I've accomplished so far is getting it laid out and removing all of that nasty, gooey electrical tape GM uses. Over here's what I've removed so far, which is just the airbag module and then some of the wiring harness related to that. I still have some of the harness to pull out the steering column for that, and I think that's all that's left of the airbag harness. Anyways, there's still quite a bit left that I can yank out of this. Like all the HVAC stuff will be coming out. We'll be running a vintage air kit, so none of this wiring will be used in that. As far as like the door harnesses and stuff, some of this will get to come out, will have to come out. I'll just have I just need speaker wire. I don't know if I'm gonna need speaker wires going to the doors or not yet either. Haven't really decided where I'm gonna mount speakers. But anyways, probably take speaker wires out. I am gonna be having power windows and power locks, but there won't be any controls in the door panel. I'm going to have everything in the center console, so the controls can come out of here. I'm not 100% sure what this harness is even for. I think I can just unplug that and not use it. As you can see, I've got the whole front clip put back on again. But as far as the wiring stuff goes, I gotta go through and figure out what I'm keeping and what I'm not on the... I should just need the headlights out of this, and then I'll just go into the fuse panel. Still working on figuring out how to mount it. Right now where I want to mount it, it doesn't really work because the hood hinges hit it. So we gotta figure out a way to get it mounted lower. Alright, so I have absolutely no idea where I'm at in this video sequence right now. We've been really busy on the farm, so just been kind of doing stuff here and there. Some smaller tedious projects. For example, I finished up the fender liners, scraped a bunch of the undercoating, that's all that floor over there. Off the back side, wire wheeled everything, threw some paint on it. I'm actually kind of surprised at how well this turned out, considering there was almost no effort put into it. It was just kind of something to get a covering on it so it would solve the rust issues. This is just Ace Hardware rust stop paint that I sprayed with a primer gun that I didn't even bother setting up. Anyways, got that done. I think I mentioned this already. I shortened up the intercooler piping, rotated this side. This I know is new. I've got the fuse panel mounted, all the computers mounted under the hood. So you can see the transmission mount, or transmission computer is mounted on the bottom here. And that's just bolted up to some tabs, or a tab that I welded onto the back of this big angle iron here. And then 2 holes that are drilled into it. This has isolation mounts, so I don't have to worry about the TCM grounding out. For the engine control module. Ended up, if you can see here, it's mounted. It's got, so I just took some punched angle iron that you get at your hardware store and modified it so that it would clear the backing plate of the ECM here, and then just put it on through those screws. And then it's just isolated with plastic mounts on both sides. Get this out of here. I can't really see here. I'm gonna grab a light. Alright, see. Alright, I grabbed a light so you can kind of see. It's just sandwiched it between two pieces of plastic and then screwed it directly into the mount there. Got most of the underhood wiring finished up. This piece here is it's for the windshield wiper motor. That I think I'm gonna end up having to pull these wires back through the firewall because that mounts underneath the cowl here, and the access to the motor is up underneath the dash in here. Which this uses a vacuum actuator. The c10, the 67 did, so we have to figure out how to wire up an electric motor for that. But anyways, if you come into the interior, got the cab harness ran in here and kind of mounted up. It still looks like a mess. Let's see, this isn't mounted yet. I still got to make some mounts for the fuse panels and stuff. I have the factory mount in here. I just have to weld some tabs onto it so that it'll mount to the sidewall here and stay tucked up underneath the dash. Back here's the BCM and the transfer case control, and we got the four-wheel drive and the lighting controls. Alright, so I'm getting ready to weld up the intake. Ended up having to do a couple pie cuts because the 45 wasn't quite enough. And this is aluminum. Wish I had a TIG welder to weld this with. Unfortunately I don't, so spool gun it is, which kind of works for this. This has way too big a wire for this thin of aluminum, so I gotta be really careful when I'm doing this. So it's just gonna be a series of tacks all the way around. It won't look pretty, but I'm gonna end up grinding it down and smoothing and polishing it out anyways. So anyways, got this all cleaned up and ready to go. Alright, so I got everything tacked up and mocked up and ready to be fully welded. Alright, so we got this all welded up yesterday. Got it in here mocked up. And well, as you can tell, like I said, the welds weren't going to be pretty with that spool gun. But they should hold. All that's going to get sanded down and polished anyways. So I'm not too concerned with that as long as there's no holes or cracks in it. Alright, so I apologize for the mess. Just been trying to button some up on this thing. And I'm getting really close to the first test fire. The wiring harness is kind of a disaster right now for the battery. I plan on building my own, but for test purposes right now, I just have the original one draped across the top of the hood, hooked up to the starter, and hooked up to a single battery over here for now. That is too dead to do anything with right now other than test to see if the key switch and everything works, which it is. And it tries to crank, but just clicks because there's not enough juice, obviously. So I think we got enough wiring done to try and test it out. I just put the oil cooler back in with new gaskets, put oil in, new oil filter. In the process of putting fuel in the tank, which I haven't done the filler neck yet, so to do so, siphon pump shoved up underneath into the tank is what it's going to be. And I can come back up here, and another one of my lovely wiring messes I've got going on here is the fast fuel system wiring. Obviously I'm going to shorten this because this is a ridiculous amount of extra wire. But we got it hooked up enough to prime the fuel system. So it's got to do that. And then I still got to hook up the transcooler. Once I get those two things done and get some batteries hooked up to this thing that have some juice, I should be able to test start this thing finally. Be the first time I've had this pickup running, the first time I had this engine running in 2 years. All right, I got the fuel system primed up, and I hooked up another battery with some random shit I had laying around. This is just temporary. Obviously, I'm not going to leave shit like this. But anyways, let's grab this and crawl in here and see if we can get this thing started. Get the lift pump running. God damn it. That battery's evidently no good either. Really wanted to get this thing running tonight, but might have to wait until tomorrow where I can run and grab a new battery. Alright, I've got 3 shitty batteries hooked up right now. And if this doesn't work, I'm calling it a night, and I'm gonna go get 2 shiny new batteries tonight, or tomorrow morning. So, here goes attempt number 3. Well, at least it cranked that time. Okay, I lied. That wasn't my last attempt for the night. Decided to pull the LML in and hook up some booster cables and get one last try. Hopefully this works. Holy shit, it started! Yes! I don't know what the massive backfire was, but we'll worry about that later. Alright, so I went to town the other day, picked up some new batteries, and built a new battery tray for them. It's pretty much all ready to go. Ended up getting 2 1000 cold cranking amp batteries with the Group 31, so I could have the threaded nuts on the top, or threaded studs. All I got left to do is weld this onto the chassis. Alright, so I got it tacked in here, and as you can see, it's pretty freaking tight. Alright, so I got the battery tray all painted up and mounted in here. Rather than weld it on, as you can see, I ended up bolting it because it tucks inside the box a little bit. So if I'd have welded it, I don't think I'd have been able to take the box on and off. So, drilled 3 holes, got her bolted up. I was originally going to put a 4th one off of a bracket in this area here that was be welded to the frame here, but it's nice and solid as it is, so we're just gonna leave it like this. Anyways, I got the batteries all hooked up. It looks like I gotta tighten this down a little bit yet. The ground runs to a switch over there for a cutoff, and then I ran the power wire through the frame and up to the starter. Come under here. Here's the switch, and it's just grounded directly to the frame there. So come inside here. This is where we got the switch. Okay, so just to update for under the hood here. Got this all completed. I still gotta smooth this out before polishing it. I built the air box for this. I'm not 100% sure if I'm gonna stick with this one. I built it out of some fairly thin aluminum, just because that's what I could find easily right away. So that might get updated in the future. For the AC, I ended up scrapping the idea of trying to tie into the factory hoses because they're just bulky. They didn't fit very good with the intake. So what I ended up doing is ordering the complete vintage air kit minus the AC pump, because this isn't a small block Chevy. So we got the full condenser kit with the builder hoses on it. So instead of these all being hard lines, they're soft lines. You just got to crimp them. So I just have it mocked up right now. I haven't drilled any holes in the firewall yet. So just basically been mocking up the condenser and some underhood hoses. But yeah, I ended up going with a 90-degree adapter to run the GM, or to fit the GM pumps, to go adapt to, I think these are number 8 and number 10 fittings, or 10 and 12 maybe. I'm not 100% sure off the top of my head what they are. Anyways, it's to fit the vintage air stuff, and I ended up switching these ends out to 90-degree fittings. When they shipped the kit, it came with 135-degree fittings, and it didn't fit at all. They ended up in the hood, because I also tried a straight adapter on here first, and now, yeah, it didn't work at all. We were touching the hood, basically. Figured out the coolant. It's just some 90-degree elbows. I think they're 1 3/4 inches. And then this is just a piece of J pipe, aluminum again. Just cut it down to the length I needed and then rolled the new beads on it. Another update from the fuel system. I was having issues with the way I had ran it originally, which was I was trying to run the return from the engine and the return from the fast lift pump. I had them teed in together with a check valve to keep from backflowing, but obviously the pressure coming off of the return pressure coming from the engine was obviously greater than the return pressure coming from the FAS, because it would overload the FAS and pop the fuse. So to fix that, I just capped off the T and then ran the FAS directly to the tank and drilled another hole in the tank and just put an AN fitting. And yeah, it runs fine now. I got it all tied into, all wired up and tied in. If you turn it on, you can hear it running. And truck fires up a lot faster than it was before. Still got some codes showing up on here. The reduced engine power is because the pedal's unplugged right now. Yeah, I got some of the interior tore apart again because I was trying to put a rubber mat in. Didn't fit worth a hell. Didn't fit hardly at all. Wasn't happy with it, so I pulled it back out. I'm gonna run TMI carpet kit instead. So yeah, pretty much all this that's hanging down here. See, this has only got one screw holding it in right now because the other two I had pulled up trying to put the mat in. But yeah, everything's basically mounted up except for the light switch and the 4-wheel drive. So yeah, I think I'm still gonna try and gut this and set it up on a rotary switch, just soldered into the positions on here. Looking at the wiring schematics for the circuitry, I think it's going to work. Not 100% sure on it, but we'll give it a shot. Worst case scenario, I got to buy another switch. For the lighting switch, I'd like to try and run it on something else, but it's a little more complicated than the 4-wheel drive switch, so oh, I shouldn't say that. I'm not 100% sure. I haven't looked at the wiring schematic for this yet. But if I could wire it up to the factory switch somehow for the 67 and mount it on that dial, that would be great. Alright, so I got the passenger seat in, all bolted down. Whole framework and everything's welded up. Anyways, this is basically just a mirror of what's going on that side. The seat frame will be welded on here, here, and here. And then this will just bolt down to the corner piece, and it'll be welded all the way around. Back corner here, you can see on this side, it's bolted down through the floor again, and I just welded a plate on the bottom side. Yeah, just got the driver's side left to finish up, and seats are mounted. All right, so to go along with that other portion of explaining it in the cab, so these two bolts and these two bolts both bolt into the factory bench seat locations on the floor of the cab. Then these two go onto the pegs that I welded in there. Alright guys, thanks for watching. And as always, please like and subscribe to follow along with the build. With any luck, the next video, we'll be taking this for a test drive. Even though it's snowing out, I really want to drive it.